This video demonstrates how to create your merchandise page for your website. So I'll show you mine. Okay, so it's completely fine for you to copy this layout because it will help you when you come to create the interactivity. So mine is just coming on a diagonal layout from left to right and back to left. And I have my t-shirts, my tote bag and my pins. And for the t-shirts, I have 3 different designs. So if I click on each of the buttons, that switches out and it is dissolving between the images. And the circles are also animated using Smart Animate in Figma. I also have a cart, and if I click the Add to Cart button, you can see that updates to 1. And the second one updates to 2. Now we know this is prototyping, so it just means I've created the kind of look that this would look like. If I clicked this one, it wouldn't work because I haven't created that link. It's just so that the coder knows how we want the cart to visually appear. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to create the layout. So currently your merch page is just blank. This is where we're going to get up to. So I'm going to bring in my footer. So the footer is on my component sheet and I have created it as a component, which we did in the last class. So just copy that, select the merch frame and Control V to paste and drag it to the bottom of the page. Now the page height is going to depend on your content and your layout. I have mine set to 2756 pixels, so yours doesn't have to be exactly the same, but that's roughly how much room this is going to take. Okay, so next I'm going to create the banner here with the heading and the text. So create a rectangle frame. And the height is going to be 400, the width 1920, and I just make sure it's aligned to the left and the top. Change the color to whatever suits your site, so mine's the light green. Okay, so for the content here, I've created a Word document for you, which is in the shared OneDrive folder, and I'm just going to copy the text here, which is going to go in the banner. Create a text box and paste it in. Now the type is the last type I used, which is for the menu, so I'm going to want to change that. I want it bolder than the paragraph style, so I'm going to create a new header style. So I still want to use Quicksand. I'm going to change the size to 17, still want it to be bold, and I don't want it to be uppercase, so I select the type settings button here, and under case I'm going to change it to as typed. And alignment, I'm going to align to the left. So that's looking good. I'm now going to create that as a style. So click the style button, click the plus sign, and I'm going to change this to header 4, H4, and go create style. It means I can have, I've got a header 1 and then I can have some header 2 and 3s, which will be bigger. So this is creating a hierarchy for my text. And I'm just dragging that in until the t-shirts starts on the second line, and where I've got XX, it's 20% of the proceeds from each sale directly supports. You can choose whatever you want to support. Mine's going to be bird rehabilitation in New Zealand. If you don't want to support a charity, delete that sentence altogether. And I'm just going to drag that up. Okay, so next is our header here. So it's just creating a text box, typing merch, and changing that to your header 1. So just select that and change the color to white. I'm just going to update my header because you can see I've actually got it smaller here, so where it is, so all I need to do to edit that is I click away and change the size to 70, and I'm going to change the leading to 80. Yes, it did. Okay, so that's a nicer size, and I'm going to align it to the third column for both. And for the spacing, I just need to align that underneath the title until it highlights red, and then use the Shift key and the arrows, 1, 2, 3, so I'm having mine 3. And every time I do the Shift and the arrow key, it moves it 10 pixels. If I don't hold down Shift, it's just moving it 1. So that's how you can easily figure out your spacing. Okay, so next, bringing in the images, create a rectangle box. Under the fill color, change it from solid to image. Choose the image and select your favorite t-shirt design because that's what's going to show first, and then resize it make a copy for the tote bag and change the image. Now for the tote bag, the important thing is you're not cutting off the shadow, so increase the box until the shadow is not being cut off and just reposition it. So what I'm trying to get is even spacing between the t-shirt and the tote bag and the tote bag and the pins. So I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. Okay, so next the type here. So go back to the Word document, select this text, back into Figma, create a text box and paste it in. Now the type that's been set is our header 4 that we've created for here, so we are going to use that in places, but the main title I want to change, so I go over to my text and change the settings. So I'm going to make that 25 and the leading I'm going to make 130. And I'm going to change the color to the pink. The add to cart I'm going to delete because I'm going to create a button for that. I'm going to change this to pink, and I'm going to change this type here to my paragraph text, which was Montserrat. And I'm going to make it regular, and the size I'm going to make 15, and the leading I'll make 130%. Now it's important that you're looking at where the text is ending, so the rag here. So I'm going to bring that in. I think that looks good. So all we need to do is just copy that box down and change the information. Before I do that, I'm just going to change brand name to Bertie. So yours will be your chosen person's name. And copy the correct text. Okay, perfect. So now we just have 3 text boxes, and next we're going to create the buttons. So to do that, we're going to create them on the component sheet, because we're going to turn it into a component that we can use again throughout the site. So all you need to do is create a text box and type the word button. Set the size of the text, so I'm going to change mine to 20 and the color to the pink. I'm going to turn it into an auto layout. So right click and add auto layout, and that allows me to change the padding. So if I change that to 20 and the height to 10, and now I'm going to add the stroke and change the color to the pink. And so that basically means that I can change the appearance of the text box, so I don't have to have a box, the text on top of a box. So it's all, the button is just one text box. And under the frame you can see there's one that says corner radius, and if I can enter a value, or if I just hover over to the corner, the cursor changes to the arrows, and I can just simply click and drag these inwards. And I'm going to change the stroke thickness to 2. And now back in my auto layout, you can see I've got either my space between the lines, between the items, which I don't need to change because there's only one item in it, and I have the padding. So if I was to drag these out, you can see that that is the horizontal one, and the vertical one is like so. So I have mine at 20 and 10. So all I'd need to do then is control copy that onto my page, and you can see it comes in as a child of the master. And I'm going to change the text to add to cart, and I want mine all lowercase because I think that looks a lot better. And now I'm just going to duplicate this down. So to get the even spacing between our text and our button, we're going to use auto layout. So to select the text and the button, right click and add auto layout. Now with the text, we just have to make sure that the contents is hug contents, and we're going to remove the space under quantity. Because it's hugged, it's now snapped right below that, and then we can change under auto layout the spacing so it's even. So I'm going to make mine 40. So again down here, add auto layout. This one we're going to hug the contents and remove that extra space and change the spacing to 40. That one's all right. Okay, so making sure everything's aligned to the grid, the spacing is looking nice. Okay, so next let's create the hover states for our button. So select the button. Before we do that, I'm just going to name all of these auto layouts. So this is t-shirt content. So remember, always rename as you're making. This is tote bag contents. And the last one is the enamel pins. Okay, so now select the button and drag it out of that frame, and we're going to change the style of this. So this one we're going to have a fill, and the color is going to be, hang on, got to make sure when I do this that I'm actually selecting the button, the auto layout, and then I can minus the stroke and add a fill and change the text to white. So sometimes it's easier to select from the layers panel. Now that we've got that, we're just going to copy this one by holding down Alt for the other two buttons. Okay, so we're ready now to create the links. Go to Prototype, select the button, and drag to our hover button. So in the interaction details, change it to while hovering, open overlay, overlay manual, and you can see that it shows exactly where the other button will align, which is perfect. And we do the same. And let's play that so we can see how that's looking. Yep, nice. Okay, so next we're going to create our buttons for the t-shirt. Go back to design, and we're going to create a circle, holding down Shift and changing the width to 30, and the height will automatically update because it's constrained. This one's going to be the outer circle, the stroke. What I have on each is the fill and the stroke, and this one is enlarged to show this is the active state for that button, and these are the non-active states. And Figma will animate between those states. So the first one we're going to rename outer, and instead of a fill it's going to be the stroke. So over in fill we minus that and we add a stroke. The color is going to be pink, and the thickness is 2 pixels. Now the colors, it depends on what you want. Basically I've dictated the t-shirt colors for each. So this t-shirt's pink and green, So the inner circle is going to be green. So I just Control D that, and I am going to minus the stroke and add a fill. This one's going to be the green, and the size is 15 by 15. Rename this one inner. Remember, the naming is really important here. And I'm going to snap that into the center. Select both and frame the selection because we want to turn it into a button. And we're going to call this one T-shirt button 1. So we just duplicate that and change the settings. So for our inner, I'm going to change the size to 12 and the color to the dark brown. For the outer, just make sure that I actually select the outer, and I'm going to keep the color pink but change it to 15. Now I want to make sure the two are aligned, so I select them both and use my align tools. Align center, vertical and horizontal. Now I want to make sure it's actually centered within the frame, so I just drag it until the lines appear, so that with each frame the elements are centered. So I make a copy of that, and this one we just need to change our colors. So button 3, the inner is going to be my green and the outer is going to be the brown. Now I want to make sure the spacing is even between all three, so I select all and I add my auto layout, and I'm going to change the spacing to 20 and rename that frame T-shirt buttons and center that under the T-shirt. So we're ready to go for the interactivity there and here. And lastly, we're just going to create this card. So I have created that for you in Illustrator, and it's in the shared folder. So I just copy that, go back to Figma and paste it. And I'm just going to paste it outside of my columns, and it's going to align with my title here. It comes in at 75 by 75, and that's perfect. You don't need to change that, but you can change the colors. So my fill is going to be just a light grey, and that is because I don't want it white, because when it's on this white background I still want it to show up. And I'm going to change the trolley to the banner color. And next I'm going to create the little circle to show the contents of the cart. And my circle is going to be dark brown, and the size is going to be 15. Actually, I think that looks a little bit too small. I'm going to make it 25. And this frame I'm going to rename trolley, and the circle I'm going to kind of put it over the trolley, but make sure it doesn't go inside that frame. And I'm going to rename this cart circle. And now I just have to create the number 1, so draw a text box and make sure that it's above that circle we just created, and changing the color to whatever you want it to be. And I'm going to make the size 20. So it keeps wanting to jump into that frame. So now that I've got that created, I'm going to frame that whole piece. So select all of those elements and frame that selection. And we're going to call this trolley. And we don't want it to scroll away, so make sure you tick fix position when scrolling. And now when I push play, you can see the cart is in place. And when I scroll, it stays in place, and the grey works quite well. You can see this, the shadow's getting cut off, so I have to go and fix that, but everything else is looking good. So let's fix that shadow. And that's good. Alright, so that's the layout. Next we'll look at creating the interactivity. So basically what we need to do is to create duplicate copies of the merch frame. So first of all, across, this is the add to cart. So the only difference to this page is the cart has been updated to the 1, and the second duplicate, it's been updated to the 2, and the links are coming from this hover state button to that frame. For the different t-shirt buttons, they are duplicating downwards, so we have, this is the first, the second and the third, and the buttons change. The active state is this one, and then so on, and the final one. So let's have a go at doing that. So this is where we got up to. So first of all, we select the whole merch frame, and we're going to hit Control D to duplicate it. And again, Control D. So we've got 3 instances of our merch frame. We're going to name the second one Merch Cart 1, and the last one Merch Cart 2. So on the Merch Cart 1, on the original one, we're going to go to our trolley, and where it is the ellipse cart circle and the number, we're going to highlight them both and turn off the visibility. So in design, under layer, we just turn off the eyeballs so that they can't be seen, but they're still there. On this second one, we're going to change the cart, so the circle, to the pink. So that's saying that the cart has been loaded, and the trolley I'm going to change to white. And on this one, we're going to do the same. So select the ellipse, change the color, and the vector trolley path we're going to change to white, and the number we're going to change to 2, and just center that in the circle. Perfect. So now to create the links, I'm going to have the add to cart for the tote bag go to page 1, and the enamel pins to the cart 2. So I need to select the button, the hover state, because that's the one we're going to click on. Go to prototype, and I'm going to create the link from here to the frame 2. And it's going to be on click, navigate to merch cart 1 in an instant. On the second one, we're going to drag it to merch cart 2, and all the settings are already set up. So now if we push play, we'll see how that's working. So Bertie tote, add to cart. And that has worked, but what is happening is it's jumping back to the top of the page, and we don't want that. We want it to stay where we were. So to fix that, we go and select that link, and where it says preserve scroll position, we're going to tick that and do the same here. And now let's go and have a look at that. We just need to make sure we are only viewing it from that merch page. And now it doesn't jump back up to the top. So that is done. Okay, so next let's add the interactivity for the buttons. So again, we're going to duplicate the original merch page by hitting Control D, but just so we don't confuse this new set of changes, we're going to drag it below. So these ones are for the cart and below are for the t-shirts. And again, Control D and move below. And we're going to name this one here merch t-shirt 2 and t-shirt 3. Okay, so this page is all set up and it's ready to go. On this one here, we're going to change the t-shirt to the brown one. And this one is to the final design. Now we need to change the active states for the buttons. So we select the auto layout and just find that. Where is that? So that is here, and we're going to select the second button, and the outer is going to be the 30 by 30 and the inner is going to be 15. And now we need to align the two. So we use the align vertical and horizontal. And now we need to position them inside that frame. For the first button, we're going to make it inactive. So the inner is 12 and the outer is 15. Select both, align horizontal and vertical, and position inside that frame. And let's do the same here. Alright, so they are ready. Because these are all named the same, Figma knows that when we add Smart Animate, it's going to create the animation between these two objects. We're also going to change the names of each of the t-shirts, so it's up to you. I'm going to call this King of the Castle. That's because Bertie is the king here. And on this one, I'm going to call it Pink Truffle, because that's what Bertie likes to eat. Alright, so I think we're ready to go. Right, so we're going to select on this page here, the second button, and we're going to go to prototype and link it to the second page, because the brown button goes to the brown top page. In the interaction details, it's on click, navigate to, and we're going to change the animation to Smart Animate, and these settings are fine. And we'll do the same with the third button, so it's going to go all the way down to here. And the settings that we've just set up will be retained. So that's perfect. We've set up that first page, but now we've got to do the same for this page, for the others. So we're going to select this first button, it's going to go to that first page. All the settings are the same. And the third button is going to go all the way down to this one. And that's correct. And lastly, the first one to the first, and the middle one Okay, so let's push play and see if that worked. Perfect, so we can see it's animating between these two objects, and you can see it's creating those tweens. The t-shirt is dissolving between the images, and the text is also being updated. So that is complete. Your merch page is done.